All right, welcome everyone. This is Joseph Spivey, and in this video, I'm going to go over the course policies and take a look at the syllabus. You really need to read the syllabus all the way on your own. This is just going to be some highlights from the policies. So again, it's not really a substitute for you going through and reading the syllabus yourself, but it does mention some of the highlights. All right. So the first information is pretty self-explanatory, so I'll let you read that. You probably know when the class meets. I do want to point out that my office hours are Mondays through Thursdays from 3 to 4 p.m., Fridays from 2 to 3 p.m., and by appointment. I want to highlight that last part, right? The and by appointment. So if these office hours don't work for you, if you've got a question, you want to come by, but you can't come by those times, please make an appointment with me. Right, I'm happy to make appointments with you to work with you on calculus. I think that working one-on-one with students is really, really an important part of my job, and I want to make sure that I am available to do that. So I'm happy to make an appointment with you. Let's see. I do want to point out that in the past you may have been able to memorize your way through a math class. And I don't think that that's going to be a successful strategy for this particular class, right? I'm going to want you to understand the material and apply it to new problems and new situations. So again, we'll talk about strategies for how to do well in class that's not memorizing, but it's important that you understand the material, okay? We're going to have a lot of group activities in class, and we'll have some lecture as well, and those are the main methods that we're going to use for learning in this class. Here are the goals of the course, and you can take a look at it, but we are going to talk about some of the rigorous foundations for calculus. So at the very beginning of the class, we're going to go back and we're going to fill in some of the logical gaps from Calculus 1. So in Calculus 1, you studied limits and derivatives, and you had limit rules and derivative rules, but you probably didn't talk a lot about why those limit rules are true and why those derivative rules are true. So in the first part of this course, we're going to go back and we're going to study the whys, the foundational knowledge of calculus, why the things that we learn in calculus are actually true. It will be a very different thing for you. It's likely a different sort of math than you're used to. But we'll go slow, and we'll have a lot of activities to help us understand what's going on there. Right? So that's the first part of the course. The next part is going to be we're going to do L'Hopital's rule. We're going to do some advanced integration techniques like trig substitution and partial fractions. And I will say that we'll have a little bit of review of integration, antiderivatives, as we go along. So if you're worried about that, again, we'll have some review as we go along. And the last part, we'll study sequences and series. Really, really important part of calculus that's used in physics and chemistry and all over the place. So it's a good calculus topic to cover because it can be applied to so many different situations. Right? So let's see. We're gonna. This is about problem solving, homework. So I'll let you read that. We will do a lot of collaborating in groups together. So this course is going to build upon and strengthen your ability to collaborate with others. So frequently you'll work together on problems in class, and I'll grade those group activities to make sure that you're keeping up with it and doing what you're supposed to do. And we'll talk a little bit about why I have so much group work in class, but we'll talk about that in class. Right? So this is about technology in the classroom. So we're going to use Moodle. We may take quizzes. We'll use Moodle for assignments. You already saw a video about Moodle, so I'm not going to go talk about that. I also, in the other video, talked about WebAssign. So again, that's the online homework system, and you'll be able to, you get 100 tries on each problem to get right. So I think that's a very generous thing. Again, my thought is I want you to be able to do the problems eventually. It's not important if you get it wrong the first time. I just want you to get it right eventually. Right? Let's see. The class textbook is a digital textbook with interactive figures. So we talked about that in the other video. And you'll need a graphic calculator for this course for tests and quizzes and whatnot. The graphic calculator cannot be a TI-89 or a calculator that does symbolic differentiation and integration. If you have a calculator and you want to know if it works or not, you can bring it by me and I can let you know. If you don't have a calculator and you don't want to spend the money to buy one, you can use the GraphLock app to turn your smartphone into a graphing calculator. And there's a link to that on Moodle. There is a reading posted each night. It's important that you keep up with that reading, so make sure that you do that. And I just want to point out, it is really important to devote a few hours each night to read the textbook, do the homework questions, and review the material. So this is not the sort of thing that you want to just go a week or 2 weeks without doing any reading or homework. You're going to get behind, and these concepts build on each other, so it's really important that you keep up with it as you go along. Just get in the habit of devoting a few hours each day to looking at calculus, and you will be that will ensure your success. We talked about the online homework. I do want to point out that students will be granted one extension up to 48 hours after the original due date on a homework assignment upon request for 75% credit. So I know sometimes you get busy and it's hard to do your homework on a particular night. Anytime that happens, there's a button in WebAssign that you can click, and it will automatically grant you an extension for 75% credit for the stuff that you have yet to complete for that assignment. Okay. Now, I know that there are also times where you will need an extension and you've got a good reason that you need an extension. You were an athlete and you were traveling and did not have access to internet, or you have a concussion and you can't look at the screen for a few days. Those sorts of extenuating circumstances, I'm happy to grant you an extension for no grade penalty, right? So if you feel like you would like an extension and you have some extenuating circumstances that your extension should be sort of excused, then you need to email me directly and I can grant you an extension depending upon the circumstances for no grade penalty. Right? So again, that button for the extension is if you just forget to do an assignment or turn it in late or whatever. That's the one that gets you 75% credit. Right? This is about participation. We'll talk more about participation in class, but a lot of times we'll be using group activities to learn the material. I do want to point out that if you have an unexcused absence during a class period in which group activities are graded, you will receive a 0 for that assignment or those assignments. This is the attendance policy. So basically, you need if you want your absence to be excused, it needs to have some sort of documentation. Okay. And I'd like to, if you know ahead of time that you're going to be gone, I'd like you to let me know ahead of time. Otherwise, your absence may be considered unexcused. Okay. So if you miss a test or a quiz, I'll assign a grade based on your score on the final exam, or administer a makeup exam. That's my choice. In the case of missed homework, I usually grant an extension or just assign a grade based on the average of your other homework grades. Again, it's my choice. Right? If it's an unexcused absence, you get a 0 for the assignment or test. Right? I do want to point out no student with 3 or more unexcused absences will be permitted to drop the course with the passing grade. So you really ought to be coming to class. Okay, let's talk about tests next. There will be 3 in-class tests. The dates for those tests are posted on the website. Excuse me. There also may be quizzes, and we may use WebAssign to have those quizzes. I'll give you more information about that later on. And for a test, you can use a calculator and a 3x5 inch index card with notes written on one side for each test. And for the final, I let you use both sides of a note card. Let me be clear. You may not use notes, other notes, textbook, internet, other technologies. Those things are prohibited during the tests. So just so you know. Also, there's a proofs portfolio that you'll have to submit for this class. The first unit of our class is on theory and proofs, and I don't think that I don't think that a traditional test is the right way to assess a student's understanding of that, so I ask you to turn in a portfolio instead. The grades on those portfolios are often high, and the students, I've gotten good feedback on that assignment. I think students feel that it is a good way to show that they understand that proof stuff. It is a better way than tests to show that they understand that stuff. So there will be one proofs portfolio. The due date is listed at the end of this syllabus. And I'll give you some more information about what that proofs portfolio looks like later on. So here's the grade breakdown. So take a look at that. And here's how I'm going to assign letter grades. Right? Now this is important, so I just want to read this guy here. Right? It is the policy of the mathematics department that professors strictly enforce the WP/WF grade policy. Right? So if you want to withdraw from the class after the drop add period, you will be assigned a grade of either WP if you are passing and a WF if you are not passing. Okay? A WP does not affect your grade in any way, your GPA in any way. Okay? And a WF counts toward your GPA as an F. And you don't want that to happen. Okay? So, in the mathematics department, if you have an F and you want to withdraw after that drop add period, you will be assigned a grade of WF. Okay? And that's a mathematics department policy. Basically, we in the mathematics department have found that if students are doing their homework, then they are getting a passing grade, and so that there's no issue. But before we had this policy, we had a lot of students who just wouldn't do any homework and then were surprised when they got to that first test and it didn't go well, and who would then withdraw. And we were getting high withdrawal rates, and it was not a good situation. And in fact, students would take the course again and still not do homework, and it still not go well. So we now enforce the WP/WF grade policy, and the reason is, again, just to make sure that students are doing their homework. We, as professors, know that you can't be successful in the class unless you do some homework. It's the right way to learn the material. I think most students know that too. But this is to make sure that that's happening. All right. And I just want to say as well, a student with 3 or more unexcused absences who wishes to withdraw will be assigned a grade of WF. This is not going to be an issue for you at all as long as you're keeping up with the homework. Let's see, this is about the final exam, and this is about the honor code. Honor code is very, very important. These are the things that you can use for your homework. If it's not in that list, you can't use it for your homework. Okay? And we'll talk about this in class too, but I know that there's lots of technological resources out there that will do your homework for you. Or those can be really, really helpful if you use them responsibly. Technology should support a student's learning, not take the place of doing work. So if you're using those just to get answers, that's not a very good method, and that would be against the honor code. If, on the other hand, you have trouble getting a question correct, and you've tried several times, and you look at one of these resources and you show the steps, and then you do the next problem on your own correctly, that's a method, that's a good use of technology because it supports your learning. If it is taking the place of your learning, it is not a responsible use of technology, right? And I think that generally students understand what the difference is. So make sure that when you use technology, I'm all for using technology, but when you use it, make sure that it supports your learning, not taking the place of it, right? And the final thing that I want to point out is, here's the tentative syllabus for this class. The test dates are probably going to be then. It's rare for me to move one of the test dates, but sometimes we get behind. It's not uncommon for these topics to be on different dates, just so you know. All right, that concludes this video. Again, I want to make sure that it is not a replacement for, and it's not a substitute for you reading the whole syllabus yourself, but I hope it helps to sort of see some of those highlights. Thanks very much, and I'll see you in class.